Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Sarah Fensky. 1 year ago this week, Andy Magee set out on a quest. The St. Louis resident wanted to visit every single location in the U.S. National Park system. That's 419 national parks. And, spoiler alert, he made it. On Tuesday, he checked the final site off his list, and that was, of course, the Gateway Arch. So here to tell us all about his remarkable journey is Andy Magee. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
So you saved the best park for last. What was going through your mind when you finally set foot on the Arch grounds?
It was a fairly surreal moment when I got down to the Arch on New Year's Eve morning. There was a large crowd of people waiting to greet me, and I was very moved by that. I wasn't expecting it. I'd never really given much thought all year about the last stop and what that would be and what that meant. It was just sort of going to be the end of my journey. But throughout the year, so many people started following along on my social media accounts and my website, and I think people were invested in it and interested, and I got a lot of encouragement throughout the year along the way, and it was very, very moving.
Now, visiting the park in St. Louis, that's obviously something of a gimme for a St. Louis guy. I feel like maybe the hardest step was that second to last park. What was the one you notched right before you finally came home?
The second to last stop actually was Hawaii Volcanoes National Park on the Big Island of Hawaii.
And what did that feel like as you stepped into that? I mean, at that point, you must have felt like, hey, it's all downhill from here.
Right. That is an amazing park, and it's still a very alive, active volcanic landscape. And so to be able to traipse around in that place and kind of almost feel the earth trembling underneath your feet, you understand how alive it is and how kind of insignificant you are in the face of something like that.
Put some things in perspective.
Perspective, for sure.
Now, when you started this journey a year ago, the government shutdown ended up closing some parks. How did that affect your attempt to do all of this in 1 year?
It was a little daunting. I had, of course, planned the trip out, and then right before I started, the government shutdown happened, and then it kept going and going and going and going. So most of my first month of the trip was filled with a lot of closed parks, places I wasn't able to get into or access or see. And it was frustrating because I was trying to achieve this goal, and every day I was just getting farther and farther behind. But finally it did end, and I did have enough time to go back and visit all of those places that were closed my first time around.
How were you able to do that? It feels like this would be hard enough having the entire year, and then you end up losing almost a month.
Willpower, tenacity, full tank of gas. I mean, all those things just...
Did you have a period where you had to kind of just shotgun a bunch just to catch back up?
There were a couple of moments during the year where I kind of kicked it into high gear and probably moved along a little quicker than I would have liked to, just to be able to see these places. But the truth is, and I think a lot of people are wondering, did I actually have time to experience these places? Did I have time to see them? Did I have time to enjoy and understand? Or did I just, stop in and get a park stamp and a photograph and go on to the next place? And the truth is, I really got a very full experience in almost every place I stopped. There's a small number, probably 5 parks or so this year that I feel like I didn't quite get the experience that I wanted to get. But that wasn't always due to time. A lot of times that was due to weather. That was due to certain trail or road closures in the park for one reason or another. So
you say that's only 5 out of 419?
About 5 or so. Yeah, 5 or 6
The others,
parks.
you feel like you really kind of were able to hit it.
I do.
That's remarkable.
Yeah. Now, of course, I didn't have enough time to hike every trail or see everything or read every plaque or everything like that. But I did have very full experiences in these places. For
the 5 where you felt a little bit shortchanged, is that something where in the coming year you're going to try to get back there?
Definitely. I have a list of running running list of places to get back to.
Now, this is kind of a side note, but I'm so curious about this. Your online presence, you have this great blog and, you have the social media stuff. It's all branded 418 parks.
That's
but
right.
as we've been saying, when you arrived at the Gateway Arch, that was actually 419. So what happened? Did we add a new national park?
We did. When I started the trip, there were officially 418 units of the national park system. And then in the spring, we did get a new unit added to the park system, so that upped the total to 419.
And what's this new national park? I feel like, how did we miss this news?
It's a little bit complicated. The new national park is what it was is we had an old park unit that was made up of several sites around the Pacific. It was called World War II Valor in the Pacific National Monument, and during the course of the year, that park got dispersed out to other agencies except for 2 units, and one of those is the the Pearl Harbor Memorial in Hawaii,
okay.
and the other is a Tule Lake in Northern California, which is one of 4 national park units that are dedicated to the Japanese American internment during World War II. So from one park, we got 2 parks.
Okay, so it was more a bureaucratic decision.
It's more of a bureaucratic decision, yes.
Okay, it makes sense. That wasn't
Yeah.
a banner headline.
Right.
Okay, so you managed to hit all 419. And I saw on your blog you called this a year-long experiment in self-reliance and an exploration of the American landscape. What do you mean by self-reliance in that context?
It was, it's a test. I did the trip by myself, and part of the test of the trip was, can you do that? Can you spend a year driving around by yourself through all 50 states? Is that something to enjoy? And would I have the fortitude and the willpower to see it through every day? And I did. I mean, it was a little sort of questionable in the first couple of weeks, but very quickly I became aware of how enjoyable it was to travel around alone, to see these places and experience them on my terms alone.
Was it ever lonely?
It was. I just wrote in my blog that it was a year of solitude that was never solitary, and there were so many people invested in this that followed me along throughout the year, and I was in constant contact with people online, and it made the whole adventure so much more rewarding and meaningful. So
What about in real life? Did you end up meeting interesting people in these
all
parks?
over the place. There are interesting people everywhere, both park visitors, park rangers, interesting people at hotel bars, just, everything. Yeah.
Is there a conversation that stands out when you're looking back on that year?
I had a really interesting moment in the spring. I was at a hotel having a late dinner, and after a day in the parks, and a woman sat down next to me, and she was a little twitchy and nervous, and I was kind of exhausted and wasn't really in the mood to talk to anybody. But I was engaging her a little bit, and then finally she just turned to me and she said, I just left my husband after 40 years.
Oh, my goodness.
And this has nothing to do with the parks or anything like that. But it was such an incredible moment that she, at that moment, needed somebody to confide in, to talk to recognize that she existed. And I just happened to be the stranger sitting there that was that thing for her.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. It was a really amazing moment.
Do you feel like you were able to give her what she needed in that moment?
I think so, as best as I could, and I hope so for her.
Now, when you ended your journey on the blog, you had a quote from T.S. Eliot, who was the St. Louis-born poet who, of course, left St. Louis and kind of turned his back on it. And this quote, it reads, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." Do you see St. Louis differently now that you've seen so many other places?
I do. Sorry, it's a little emotional. No, I mean, you can, it's coming home again. And it's an amazing feeling.
You have that greater sense of this place as your home?
Definitely.
Does this journey change how you feel about the United States?
Most definitely.
How so?
I have a much broader appreciation for this country, for the diversity, for the people, for who we are, where we've been, the sacrifices made along the way to get here by so many people.
And you're getting a little emotional
I am.
again, thinking about it. It sounds like this journey was one where not only did you get to see these beautiful places, but it seems like it really changed something also inside of you.
It did. It did. You can't go back from something like this. It's life altering.
And how do you think going into this new year, how do you see yourself changing the way you live your day-to-day life now that all this exotic travel is over?
I can't answer that question because I can't even see past today right now. So
Maybe you have to detox a little bit.
I need to
not literally, but
decompress a little bit and find my footing again. I've been floating freely all year long, and I felt very ungrounded, but in a healthy and positive way. So now I'm sort of back to reality, and I have to figure out what that means for myself.
well, welcome home.
Thank you very much.
So Andy Magee, thank you so much for joining us today and letting us follow along on your journey.
Thank you.
This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.